Imagine you're standing before a judge, and instead of an apology you hear, "My time doesn't belong in this courtroom." The municipal courtroom in Providence quiets by inches. A printer coughs somewhere behind the clerk's desk, a ceiling vent hums with the steadiness of a tired nurse. Judge Caprio scans the docket with the same gentle patience he gives to everyone, until the next case stands. Daniel Hales, real estate developer, suit cut like a decision. "Mr. Hales," Caprio says. "School zone speeding. 40 in a 20. Do you understand the charge?" Daniel doesn't sit. He plants his palms on the table as if it were a negotiating surface. "Your Honor, I'm here only because my attorney is tied up. Let's not pretend this merits a morning of my time. Frankly, my hour is worth more than this entire room." The gallery stirs. A low whistle slips from the back row, then dies when Caprio looks up. No anger. Just a level gaze that has softened far harder men. "And yet," the judge replies, voice even, "for this hour, the law has your calendar." Silence lands with the weight of a hand on a shoulder. Daniel breathes through his nose, clipped and impatient. "I don't admit anything. Those cameras are traps for people who can't afford counsel. I'll pay whatever administrative fee ends this." "Not how it works," Caprio says. "Were you alone in the car?" "A fraction too fast," he answers. "My daughter was with me. She filmed the stop." It was entertaining. A ripple of surprise moves across the benches. Entertaining in a school zone. Caprio taps the file, then gestures. "May I see the video?" Daniel unlocks his phone with a dismissive flick and passes it over. On the screen, bright noon, a crosswalk painted thick and white, a police cruiser's lights washing the asphalt in red. A girl's voice, teenage, excited, "Got it, Dad, keep talking." Laughter leaks in, unmistakably his. Over the clip, his own words, "See, Caitlin. Even the police don't scare me." The judge watches without blinking. You can hear paper shift, a cough stifled by a sleeve. When the video ends, he returns the phone with care, as if it were evidence of something bigger than a traffic stop. "In this city," Caprio says quietly, "everyone is equal. Even those who believe they've purchased time." Daniel's jaw tightens. "You're making a spectacle out of nothing." "Children cross that street," the judge replies. Nothing is not the word. The room recalibrates, smirks sink, eyes narrow. The developer's confidence does not wobble, but it reads now like a suit a size too small. He speaks in bursts, as if dictating terms, ticket dismissed or reduced. "Bill me the maximum administrative penalty. I have crews waiting, meetings lined up." "You have this," Caprio says simply. "Right now, this is your work." From the benches, attention gathers like weather. No one leans back. Even the bailiff, practiced in boredom, looks forward. What began as a $120 citation has become a mirror, a city watching one man decide who he is when "no" enters the room. Caprio closes the file. "We'll proceed," he says, calm as a warning bell. "With facts, not invoices." For the first time, Daniel does not have a line ready. The clock ticks once, twice. Somewhere outside, a school bell rings noon. Inside, the lesson begins. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I've never seen a man speak about morality without believing in it for even a second. The recess buzzes with quiet talk. The courtroom doors swing open and a young journalist, recorder in hand, steps outside into the drizzle that's begun to settle over Providence. He's there to gather context, background for what just unfolded inside, but what he finds instead is the anatomy of power, dressed in a tailored suit. Daniel Hales. Owner of Hale Development, a name printed on half the cranes that shape the city skyline. To most, he's the symbol of urban renewal, the man who brought jobs back and revitalized neighborhoods. His home, a Georgian-style estate on the east side, is the kind of place tour buses slow down to photograph. 2 sons in Harvard, a wife on the city council, a daughter who fills social media with family dinners under chandeliers and charity galas. On paper, perfect. But perfection, in Providence, is rarely clean. 3 lawsuits sit in the local court archives, unpaid wages from immigrant workers who laid the very bricks of his projects. A 4th, quietly dismissed, involves doctored environmental reports. When his company poured concrete over contaminated soil, he called it a calculation error. The fine disappeared. So did the inspector who filed it. The journalist scrolls through his phone, stopping on a recent post by Daniel's daughter. She's smiling from the passenger seat of a white Range Rover, captioned, "Dad says rules are for people without money." It's not a confession. It's a creed. Back inside the courthouse, word spreads quickly. Even among the city staff, whispers coil like smoke. Some defend him, he donated to the senior center, funded scholarships. Others roll their eyes. He buys decency the way he buys land, cash up front. The journalist stops for coffee at a small diner across from the courthouse. The waitress, a middle-aged woman with a tired but knowing look, recognizes the name immediately. "Oh, him. My cousin worked for Hale Construction. Broke his back on site, and the company fought the insurance claim for 6 months." She sets down the cup, leans in. That man doesn't lose sleep. He rents it out. Still, the story isn't simple. A retired city planner sitting at the counter overhears and adds, "He built affordable housing when no one else would." Say what you will, he gets things done. That's the trouble with people like Daniel Hales. Their good deeds come stapled to their sins, impossible to separate without tearing the paper. By mid-afternoon, the journalist manages to reach Daniel's daughter by phone. Her voice is light, unaffected, like someone who's lived too long under the glow of her father's certainty. When asked about the video, she laughs. "You don't get it," she says. "My dad isn't cruel. He just thinks kindness is weakness." The words land like a quiet verdict. Not shouted, not angry, just an echo of something learned too early and never questioned. Across town, the rain turns heavier, streaking the courthouse windows. Inside, Judge Caprio reviews the files again, unaware of the conversation unfolding beyond his walls. But the story is already shifting. What looked like a petty speeding case is becoming a mirror held up to a city that loves its success stories, even when they're built on unpaid hands. And as the evening news teases the clip of Daniel's smirk in court, a new line spreads across Providence like a rumor too sharp to ignore. He thinks the law is beneath him. By morning, the whole city will be watching to see if that's true. Real character shows not when everything goes your way, but when someone finally tells you no. The next morning, the courtroom feels different. The chatter is lower, the air denser. Judge Caprio reviews the file again, eyes narrowing slightly at the missing page, the radar camera report. A technical detail, but a crucial one. The ticket cites a camera position near Lincoln Elementary, yet the footage was submitted by a private contractor, one operating under a municipal contract recently approved by the city council. And that council, of course, includes Mrs. Caroline Hales. He leans back, fingers tapping the folder. "Strange," he murmurs. When Daniel strides in, his arrogance seems polished rather than spontaneous now, a defense mechanism dressed as charm. His daughter isn't with him today. He glances at the reporters, smirks, then adjusts his cufflinks as though he's about to chair a board meeting. Caprio begins, tone even. "Mr. Hales, according to the records, this case rests on footage from a privately operated traffic system. Would you find it unusual that the only available video happens to favor your version?" Daniel shrugs. "I don't oversee those matters. I build homes, not bureaucracy." "Perhaps," Caprio replies, "but disregard for small details often builds the tallest towers of trouble." The room absorbs the words. The developer straightens but says nothing. Then, from the benches, a frail voice interrupts. "Your Honor." Every head turns. An elderly woman stands, clutching her purse like it's something alive. Caprio recognizes her instantly, Mrs. Lori Brennan, retired teacher from Lincoln Elementary. He nods gently. Yes, ma'am. I saw that car, she says. I was walking to school that morning. It came flying past. The crossing guard had to pull the children back. A wave of murmurs sweeps the courtroom. Caprio motions her forward. Please, take the stand. Daniel's attorney rises. Objection, this is a simple traffic hearing, not a criminal trial. Civil procedure doesn't allow unsworn testimony. Caprio doesn't flinch. And yet, he says, when the law becomes deaf to the living, it ceases to serve them. The court will hear her. Mrs. Brennan steps closer. Her voice wavers but holds steady. I lost my son 20 years ago, Judge. Drunk driver. Since then, I walk those kids across the street every morning. When I see someone laughing behind the wheel, I feel that loss all over again. For the first time, Daniel's confidence falters. His eyes drop for half a second, an involuntary blink of shame. I understand your pain, he mutters stiffly. But I'm not your villain, ma'am. Caprio's gaze doesn't move. Maybe not, he says softly. But today, you sound exactly like the one who was. The words hit like a bell. The courtroom falls utterly still. Even the air seems to pause. Mrs. Brennan nods slowly, not in triumph but in quiet relief. She returns to her seat. Daniel's lawyer leans forward, whispering something, a reminder, perhaps, of political connections, of favors owed. Caprio's expression hardens. Counsel, he says, friendship ends where disrespect for life begins. No one speaks after that. The developer's jaw tightens, his fingers drum once on the table, then stop. The veneer of superiority, so perfectly rehearsed, begins to crack around the edges. When the hearing adjourns, Daniel leaves without his usual swagger. Outside, the reporters wait, but he doesn't answer them. The clip of Mrs. Brennan's testimony will play on every local channel by evening, her trembling voice outshining his practiced bravado. And for the first time in a long career of controlling narratives, Daniel Hales discovers a truth money can't manage: silence can sound a lot like guilt. Behind him, in the stillness of the courtroom, Judge Caprio watches the door close and murmurs quietly to himself, the law may forgive mistakes. But character, never. Sometimes the highest men don't fall from a blow, but from the silence that follows it. The atmosphere in the courtroom is different now. The applause from the previous day's testimony still lingers in the air like distant thunder. Daniel Hales sits straighter than usual, shoulders tense, but there's something fractured behind his eyes, an awareness that the room no longer bends around his presence. For the first time, people are watching him without fear. He clears his throat, forcing a smile. If this is a show for the cameras, then I'll play my part, he says, his voice echoing off the marble. I'll donate another 10,000 to the school and we can call this done, yes. The offer hangs there, heavy and hollow. Judge Caprio doesn't answer right away. He studies Daniel quietly, the way a doctor might study a patient who insists he's healthy. The silence stretches until it begins to sting. Then Caprio says, very softly, Mr. Hales, in our schools, children learn honesty. I don't believe they should watch you purchase it. For a beat, no one moves. Then the gallery erupts, clapping, a low whistle, murmurs of approval. Daniel freezes. He looks out at the faces, clerks, students, retirees, journalists, all the people he used to pass without seeing. None of them are intimidated. Not anymore. His hand twitches on the table. The familiar rhythm of control, negotiation, leverage, money, has suddenly stopped working. Caprio raises his hand, restoring order. This hearing will recess for 1 day, he says. I will personally review the original footage and request clarification from the city council on why that file was removed. The room goes still again. Everyone knows what that means. The city council, his wife's territory. By making that request, Caprio risks stepping directly into a political storm. Daniel's lawyer leans toward him, whispering urgently, but Daniel doesn't respond. He's staring straight ahead, jaw clenched. For a man used to owning every space he entered, it feels like being evicted from his own reflection. That night, Providence doesn't sleep. The story breaks just after midnight, a leaked email from the Department of Transportation, referencing a direct request to remove school zone footage made by a council aide, under the authority of Amelia Hales. The headline spreads fast, councilwoman linked to traffic record deletion. By morning, the courthouse steps are crowded. Protesters hold signs, "No one above the law, truth has no price tag." Reporters jostle for position. Someone shouts, "He's coming." Daniel arrives through the back entrance, face pale, flanked by two aides. The cameras flash anyway, there's no back door for reputation. Inside, Caprio takes his seat, calm as ever. He doesn't look at the cameras. "This is a courtroom," he says, "not a theater. Let's proceed." The tension feels alive, pulsing. Even the smallest movements, the scratch of a pen, the shuffle of paper, sound amplified. Daniel's arrogance is gone, replaced by something quieter, more dangerous, the dawning realization that power can't be summoned by habit. His finger taps the table, a nervous metronome. Caprio glances toward him, voice even but firm. "Mr. Hales, what's collapsing here isn't your business. It's your illusion of control. The law isn't for sale, no matter how many times you've bought silence." A collective breath moves through the room. Daniel doesn't speak. His throat tightens, but words won't form. When Caprio finally adjourns, the crowd remains standing, unwilling to move, as if they've just witnessed something rare, decency asserting itself against the machinery of privilege. Outside, the chants rise louder, echoing through the streets of Providence. For the first time in his life, Daniel hears his own name shouted not with envy or admiration, but with something far more powerful. Accountability. The most terrifying moment for a man used to buying everything is when no one is selling anymore. The following morning, the courthouse feels electric, like a storm waiting for thunder. Camera crews line the hallway, their cables snaking across the floor. Inside, Judge Caprio sits already at the bench, papers neatly stacked before him. His voice, when it comes, is calm but edged with precision. "I have received the department's official report," he begins. The original school zone footage was deleted manually, from an administrative account belonging to the city council. A sharp intake of breath sweeps through the courtroom. Even Daniel's attorney glances up, momentarily caught off guard. Caprio holds up a printed email, its seal unmistakable. "This is not speculation. It's confirmation. The file didn't vanish. Someone erased it." He turns to Daniel. "Mr. Hales, you are not directly responsible, yet. But I will ask plainly, who ordered that deletion?" The pause stretches long enough to feel endless. Daniel's jaw tightens, the muscles near his temple twitch. He opens his mouth, closes it again. The weight of decades spent controlling every narrative presses down on him. To answer is betrayal. To stay silent is confession. Before he can speak, the heavy wooden door opens at the back of the room. A rustle moves through the crowd. A woman steps forward, head held high, elegant, composed. Amelia Hales. Gasps ripple through the room. Daniel's eyes widen, not in surprise, but in dread. She walks toward the microphone, voice steady though her hands tremble slightly. "Yes," she says. "It was me. I gave the order." The words hit like a hammer. She continues, not looking at her husband. "I didn't do it to hide a crime. I did it to protect him, from himself." The courtroom falls utterly silent. Reporters lower their cameras, stunned. Caprio studies her, and his expression softens, not in approval but in understanding. "Mrs. Hales," he says quietly, you've just spoken more truth in 10 seconds than your husband has in his entire defense. Daniel surges to his feet, face flushed. You had no right, he snaps. Everything I've done was for this family. Amelia turns to him, eyes wet but steady. No, Daniel. You did it for the reflection in every window you passed. The words cut deeper than any verdict could. His shoulders sag, the pretense fractures completely. Caprio doesn't move. He simply lets the silence sit, a silence that feels both judgment and mercy. Then, from the far corner of the room, a hand rises. A young man, no older than 16, stands nervously. Your Honor, he says, I have something. He steps forward with a small phone. I recorded it that morning. I didn't mean to snoop, sir, I was just filming my friends. Caprio gestures for the bailiff to bring it. The video plays on the monitor, the same white Range Rover, sunlight flashing across its hood. A police officer approaches the window. Daniel's voice, clear, dismissive, rings out. Want me to call your supervisor? He's my neighbor. Then the door slams, the car speeds off before the officer can reply. The gallery explodes, shouts, gasps, disbelief. Reporters scramble to capture the moment. Daniel doesn't move. His face drains of color. For a long time, he just stares at the floor, the noise around him fading into nothing. Caprio lets the uproar settle, then says quietly, we've seen enough. His tone isn't cruel. It carries something heavier, disappointment, tinged with sorrow. Daniel lifts his head. His voice, when it comes, is hoarse. I thought I could fix everything with money. Caprio nods slightly. That's the problem with power, he says. It convinces you that apologies can be outsourced. In the gallery, someone whispers, she saved him by telling the truth. Another adds, no, she saved herself. Caprio doesn't interrupt. The courtroom breathes again, uneven, human. And for the first time, Daniel Hales looks smaller than the space he's standing in. Some come to court to escape punishment. Others come to finally hear the truth they've spent their whole lives avoiding. It's the final hearing. The room is full again, but quieter now, no chanting crowds, no shouting reporters. Just a hush that feels heavier than noise. Judge Caprio looks older today, the kind of tired that comes from carrying other people's choices. Across from him sits Daniel Hales, alone at the defendant's table. No wife, no lawyers. Only silence and consequence. Caprio begins softly. Mr. Hales, before I issue a ruling, do you have anything to say? For a long moment, Daniel doesn't move. His fingers trace the grain of the table, as if searching for something steady. Then he lifts his eyes. I built everything in my life so no one could ever call me weak, he says. Every deal, every house, every lie, it was armor. But I see now, weakness isn't losing. Weakness is being too proud to say you're sorry. The words fall into the still air like stones into deep water. You can almost hear the echo. Caprio nods slowly. You've stood in this courtroom before, Mr. Hales. But this is the first time you've actually been present. He pauses, choosing his next words carefully. The fine for your violation will be reduced to $50. A murmur ripples through the room. However, I'm ordering a different kind of payment. For 1 year, you will serve as a volunteer in the city's school safety program, no cameras, no publicity, just work. Your presence, not your money, will be your contribution. A stillness follows, then, unexpectedly, applause. Not loud, but real. The sound of people recognizing something fragile being rebuilt. Daniel doesn't smile. He only nods once. I understand, Your Honor. Time really is priceless. I just kept thinking it was mine. The gavel strikes, but it sounds almost gentle. Case closed. Outside, the reporters swarm the steps, microphones raised, questions flying. Judge, do you have a comment? Caprio stops for only a second. His eyes reflect the gray Providence morning. You can buy a minute of time, he says quietly, but not a second of respect. Then he turns and walks away. Months pass. Winter yields to spring. The story fades from headlines, replaced by newer scandals. But one small intersection near Lincoln Elementary has a new volunteer every morning, a man in a bright yellow vest, holding a stop sign, waving children across with careful patience. The kids call him Mr. D. Some parents recognize him, though they pretend not to. Others simply nod. One chilly March morning, Mrs. Brennan, the retired teacher who once stood in that courtroom, approaches him as the last bus pulls away. "You look different," she says with a faint smile. Daniel adjusts his cap, the corners of his mouth lifting just enough. "I just started seeing the people I used to drive past." She studies him for a moment, then nods. That's all any of us really need to learn. The sounds around them fill the moment, the laughter of children, the hum of engines, the squeak of the stop sign as it turns. Later that evening, in his small office, Judge Caprio reviews the day's cases. Through the open window drifts the sound of traffic from the same street. He smiles to himself, not triumphantly but with quiet relief. His voice, low and reflective, carries the weight of everything that's happened. Sometimes, the truest punishment isn't what you lose, it's realizing what you almost destroyed. The window light fades. The world outside continues, a little more awake than before.